She looked at me during an argument and said, "If I had better options, I wouldn't be here." I nodded, finished my coffee, and left for work like normal. That night, she came home to an empty apartment and a text that said, "Go find them." Hey viewers, before we move on to the video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if you want to see more stories like this. Thanks. Throwaway account because friends and maybe even Sarah follow my main. I need to get this off my chest because it's been 3 months and I'm still processing everything. This happened back in October, but I'm only now able to write it all out. People keep asking me how I'm doing, and honestly, I'm fine. Better than fine. But let me start from the beginning because the title doesn't tell the whole story. Sarah and I were together for 4.5 years. We met at a friend's birthday party, hit it off immediately, moved in together after about a year. The usual millennial relationship trajectory. For the first 2, maybe 3 years, things were genuinely good. Not perfect, nothing ever is, but good. We laughed together, traveled when we could afford it, talked about getting married eventually, maybe buying a house. But somewhere around year 3, things started shifting. It wasn't dramatic. There was no big fight, no major betrayal, just this slow erosion that I kept telling myself was normal. All relationships go through rough patches, right? That's what everyone says. It started with little comments. I'd suggest a restaurant and she'd say, "Mike would never choose something like that," referring to her coworker. I'd plan a weekend trip and she'd mention how her friend's boyfriend surprised her with a spontaneous flight to Portland. I'd try to initiate intimacy and she'd be too tired, but somehow have energy to go out with friends until 2 a.m. The thing is, I tried. God, did I try? I planned more elaborate dates. I helped more around the apartment. I asked her what she needed, what I could do better. She'd say nothing or "I don't know," and then 3 days later make some passive-aggressive comment about how I never do anything romantic anymore. 6 months before that final morning, I started noticing her phone behavior change. She'd tilted away when I walked by. She'd take calls in the other room. Her working late nights increased from once a month to twice a week. When I mentioned it, gently, not accusatory, she got defensive, told me I was being paranoid and insecure. So I dropped it. I didn't want to be that guy. Our sex life had basically evaporated. We went from a couple times a week to once every few weeks, and when it did happen, she seemed absent, like she was doing me a favor. I brought it up once and she sighed like I was being exhausting and said, "Not everything is about sex, you know." The Thursday before everything ended, we were supposed to go to her company's fall mixer. I'd taken time off work, bought a new shirt, was actually looking forward to it because it had been a while since we'd done anything together. She came home at 7 p.m., an hour after we were supposed to leave, and casually mentioned she'd already gone to the mixer at lunch and didn't think I'd want to go to the evening reception. I didn't even know there was a lunch portion. I asked why she didn't tell me or invite me. She said it was no big deal, and I was making it weird. Then she went to take a shower and scrolled on her phone for 2 hours. I sat there on the couch, realizing I couldn't remember the last time she'd seemed happy to see me. That weekend was tense. We barely spoke. By Monday morning, we were doing that thing where couples move around each other like polite roommates. I made coffee, she made toast. We existed in the same space without really acknowledging each other. Then Tuesday morning happened. I woke up and she was already in a mood. I could feel it before I even opened my eyes. That particular tension in the air. I got up, started the coffee, and asked if she wanted me to make eggs. She said no. Fine. I asked if she was okay. She said she was fine in that tone that means she's absolutely not fine, but wants you to pry so she can be annoyed that you're prying. I was tired. Tired of walking on eggshells, tired of trying to decode her moods, tired of being the only one trying. So I didn't pry. I just poured my coffee and sat down with my phone, checking work emails. "That's it," she said. I looked up. "What? I say I'm fine and you just accept it?" I put my phone down. "Sarah, I asked if you were okay. You said you were fine. What do you want from me? I want you to care enough to notice when something's wrong." I did notice. That's why I asked. "But you said you're fine." "Because you asked like you were checking off a box. Like it's just something you're supposed to do. And we were off. One of those circular arguments where nothing gets resolved and everyone just gets more frustrated." She said I never really listened. I said I was listening right now. She said I was being defensive. I said she was being contradictory. Back and forth, voices getting gradually louder. I don't even remember what specifically I said that set off her final response. Something about how I couldn't win, how nothing I did was ever good enough. And she just stopped, looked at me with this exhausted expression, and said, "You know what? You're right. Nothing you do is good enough. Because honestly, if I had better options, I wouldn't even be here." The apartment went quiet. Even the street noise outside seemed to fade. I just stared at her, waiting for her to take it back, to say she didn't mean it, to do something. But she just stared back, defiant, like she'd finally said what she'd been thinking for months. Something in my chest just turned off, like a switch. All the fight went out of me. All the anxiety about losing her. All the desperation to make it work. All the hope that we'd get back to how we used to be, gone. "Okay," I said quietly. I picked up my coffee mug, took a long drink, and stood up. My hands were steady. My voice was calm. I felt weirdly clear-headed, like I'd just woken up from a long fog. "Where are you going?" she asked, and I heard the first hint of uncertainty in her voice. "Work," I said. "I have that meeting at 9. I went to the bedroom, put on my shoes, grabbed my work bag. She followed me, standing in the doorway. "That's it. We're not going to talk about this." I looked at her, really looked at her. When had I stopped seeing her clearly? When had I started making excuses for someone who clearly didn't want to be with me? "You said what you said." "I believe you." "I didn't. It came out wrong. I'm just frustrated, Sarah." I cut her off, not angry, just firm. "You said what you meant. And you're right. You should have better options. You should be with someone you actually want to be with. You're being ridiculous. I'm not breaking up with you over a stupid fight. I'm not breaking up with you over a fight," I said. "I'm taking you at your word." I walked past her, grabbed my keys from the hook by the door. She was saying something behind me, but I barely heard it. Something about me being dramatic, about talking when I got home. I drove to work in this strange bubble of calm. It was like someone had turned down the volume on my entire life. I kept waiting to feel something. Anger, sadness, panic. But there was just this crystalline clarity. She'd said it. She'd finally said what her actions had been showing me for months. And I'd spent all that time trying to convince both of us that it wasn't true. I got to my desk and couldn't focus on anything. My meeting got canceled, some vendor emergency, which felt like the universe giving me time to think. I opened my laptop and stared at the screen, pulled up our lease agreement. We had 3 months left, both our names on it. I texted my buddy Marcus, who had a truck. "You free tonight?" He called me immediately. "Dude, what's up?" "You good? I'm moving out. Today. Can you help?" Silence. Then, "What happened?" "I'll explain later. Can you help or not?" "Yeah, man. Of course. What time?" "I'll let you know." I started making a list. What was mine, what was hers, what we'd bought together. The apartment was in both our names, but she'd been there first. She could keep it or find a roommate. The security deposit could be hers. I just wanted out. Around 11, my phone buzzed. "Sarah, I'm sorry about this morning. Let's talk tonight, okay? Maybe order Thai food." Like nothing had happened. Like she hadn't just told me she was settling for me. I stared at that text for a full minute. The audacity of it. The assumption that I'd just come home and pretend she hadn't said what she said. I didn't respond. My coworker Dana came by my desk around noon, asked if I wanted to grab lunch. I must have looked like shit because she immediately said, "Okay, what's wrong?" We went to the sandwich place across the street and I told her everything. The months of feeling inadequate, the phone stuff, the final comment. Dana listened, didn't interrupt, and when I finished she said, "So you're leaving?" "Yeah, good. I mean, I'm sorry, but also good. I've met Sarah. She's always been kind of, what? Dismissive of you? Like, even when you'd come to happy hours, she'd make these little comments. We all noticed. That stung more than it should have. Everyone noticed but me. Or I noticed and ignored it. You think I'm overreacting?" I asked. Dana shook her head. "I think you're finally reacting. There's a difference. Back at the office, I made more calls. My lease had a clause about early termination with 60 days notice and a penalty fee. Fine. I called our landlord, explained the situation vaguely. Relationship ended. Need to move out. And he was surprisingly cool about it. Said he'd work with us on the details. I texted Marcus again. 5 p.m.? I'll be there. Around 3, Sarah texted again. "You're being really immature about this. We need to communicate." The irony. The fucking irony. I left work at 4:30, stopped by a U-Haul place, and rented a cargo van for the evening. Drove to her apartment. My hands shook a little as I unlocked the door, but it wasn't fear or sadness. It was adrenaline. I was really doing this. I'd lived with Sarah for 3.5 years. You'd think it would be hard to sort out what was mine, but it wasn't. Most of the furniture was hers or her family's. The TV, the couch, the dining table, all hers. I'd moved in with a bed, a desk, some books, and gradually accumulated stuff, but I'd never really nested the way she had. I started with clothes, emptied my side of the closet into garbage bags, then toiletries from the bathroom, my laptop and work stuff from the desk, books from the shelf, easy to tell mine from hers. Kitchen stuff was trickier. Most of it was technically hers, but I took my coffee maker and a set of plates my mom had given me. In the bedroom closet, I found a box of photos. Us at a concert, us at her sister's wedding, us on that trip to San Diego. I picked up one of us on the beach, her laughing at something I'd said, me looking at her like she was the only person in the world. When had that changed? When had she stopped looking at me like I mattered? I almost kept the photos. Almost. But then I thought about her words. If I had better options, I wouldn't be here. I left the photos on her nightstand. Marcus showed up right at 5 with the truck and his roommate Kevin. They took one look at my pile of stuff and Marcus said, "That's it. That's it." They didn't ask questions, just started loading. We were done in 45 minutes. The apartment looked almost identical to when I'd moved in, just a few empty spots where my stuff had been. I did a final walkthrough, checked all the drawers, made sure I hadn't forgotten anything important. On the kitchen counter, I left my key and the lease termination paperwork I'd filled out. And then I pulled out my phone. Writing that text was harder than packing. I wrote several versions. "I'm out. Good luck. Too bitter. I've left. I think we both know this is for the best. Too explanatory. You were right. You should have better options. Go find them. Perfect." I sent it and turned off my phone. Marcus let me crash on his couch. He ordered pizza and we watched basketball, and he didn't push me to talk, which I appreciated. Around 10, I turned my phone back on. 17 missed calls, 32 texts, 6 voicemails. I didn't listen to them. Didn't read the texts beyond the first few. What the fuck? Where are you? This is insane. You're being insane. We need to talk. You can't just leave. I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry. Please come back. I put my phone on Do Not Disturb and went to sleep. The next few days were a blur. I called in sick to work Wednesday and Thursday. Just stayed at Marcus's place trying to process everything. Sarah's texts evolved from angry to apologetic to desperate. She showed up at my office Friday. The receptionist called up, said there was someone to see me, and my stomach dropped. I went downstairs, and there she was in the lobby. She looked terrible. No makeup, hair in a messy ponytail, eyes red. Part of me wanted to comfort her. 4.5 years of conditioning doesn't just disappear. "Can we please talk?" she said. "There's nothing to talk about. You can't just throw away 4 years over one stupid comment." People were starting to stare. I walked outside and she followed. We stood by the parking garage and she started crying. "I didn't mean it," she said. I was angry, I was frustrated, but I didn't mean it. You know I didn't mean it. "Sarah, be honest. How long have you felt that way?" She went quiet. "That's what I thought," I said. "So that's it. One bad moment and you're just done." It wasn't one moment. It was 6 months of moments. It was you pulling away, staying out late, guarding your phone, making me feel like I was never enough. That comment was just the first time you said out loud what you've been showing me for half a year. "That's not. I wasn't," she fumbled. "There's no one else, if that's what you think." I didn't say there was. "Then why won't you fight for us?" And that question broke something open. "Because I'm tired, Sarah. I'm tired of being the only one fighting. I'm tired of trying to decode what you want. I'm tired of feeling like I'm failing at being your boyfriend when I'm doing everything I can. You said you don't have better options. Fine. Maybe you don't right now. But you clearly want better options, and I'm not going to sit around waiting for you to find them." She stared at me. "You're different." "Yeah," I said. "I guess I am." "What about the apartment?" "The lease." "I left the termination paperwork. I'll pay my half of the penalty. You can stay or leave, up to you." Just like that. Just like that. She left. Didn't say goodbye, just walked away, and I felt relieved. Not happy, not sad, just relieved that it was over. The next week was logistics. We texted about the lease, about bills, about who owed what. All business, no emotion. She agreed to take over the apartment. I'd cover my portion of the early termination fee. Our landlord was surprisingly chill about the whole thing. Friends started reaching out. The ones we shared mostly sided with her, which I expected. I was crazy for leaving over one fight. I was throwing away a good thing. I was going to regret this. A few people reached out privately, though, saying they'd seen it coming, that Sarah had been checked out for a while. My buddy James told me, "Dude, at Mike's barbecue in August, Sarah spent like an hour complaining about you to anyone who'd listen. It was uncomfortable. We all kind of wondered why you were still together. Learning that everyone had noticed except me should have hurt more than it did. About a month in, I found out through mutual friends that Sarah had started seeing someone. Chris, the guy from her work. The one she'd been texting late at night, the one she'd been working late with. Turns out there was someone else, or at least the beginning of someone else. She'd probably been emotionally checked out of our relationship for months, keeping me as a backup while she tested the waters. You'd think that would devastate me, but honestly, it just confirmed what I already knew. I wasn't heartbroken, I was validated. Marcus told me she'd been posting on social media about moving on and finding happiness, the usual post-breakup performance. I didn't look. I'd unfollowed her on everything the day I left. Edit. People asking how I'm doing now. So here's where things stand. It's been 3 months. I moved into my own place last month. Nothing fancy, a 1-bedroom in a building with a decent gym. It's smaller than the place Sarah and I had, but it's mine. Every piece of furniture, every decoration, chosen by me for me. Work's been good. Better than good, actually. Turns out I have a lot more energy when I'm not emotionally exhausted 24/7. I got a promotion in November, nothing huge, but a step up and a nice raise. I've been going to the gym consistently for the first time in years. Started playing basketball again with some guys from work. Reconnected with friends I'd lost touch with because Sarah never liked them. Started reading again. Small things, but they add up. Dating? Not yet. I've downloaded the apps, but haven't seriously pursued anything. I'm not ready, and I know it. I need to figure out who I am without defining myself by who I'm with. Therapy's helping with that. Yeah, I'm in therapy. Turns out spending 4 years with someone who made you feel inadequate does a number on your self-esteem. As for Sarah, I heard through the grapevine that she and Chris broke up after about 6 weeks. Apparently, he wasn't the upgrade she'd thought he'd be. She reached out to me in early December, some long text about how she'd made a mistake, how she'd been confused, how we were good together, and she wanted to try again. I didn't respond. Then she texted, "You really moved on that fast?" I thought about it for a long time. Wrote and deleted several responses. Finally sent, "I moved on when you told me you were settling for me. Everything after that was just logistics." She didn't reply. Here's the thing I've learned. People tell you who they are and what they think of you. Sometimes they tell you with actions, pulling away, being dismissive, making you feel small. Sometimes they tell you with words. And when someone tells you that you're not enough, that you're not what they want, that they're only with you because they don't have better options, believe them. I spent months making excuses, rationalizing, hoping things would change. I told myself she was stressed, or I wasn't trying hard enough, or all relationships go through phases. But deep down I knew. I felt it every time she sighed when I walked into a room. Every time she checked her phone instead of listening to me. Every time she looked at me with that expression of vague disappointment. That Tuesday morning, she finally said what I'd been too afraid to acknowledge. And as much as it hurt in that moment, it set me free. Someone in the comments said I was cold for leaving without a long conversation, without trying to work it out. Maybe, but I'd been having that conversation in my head for months. I'd been trying to work it out while she'd been checking out. That one comment wasn't the problem. It was just the first honest thing she'd said to me in half a year. You know what I don't miss? The anxiety. The constant feeling that I was failing at something I couldn't quite define. The walking on eggshells. The trying to read her mind. The hoping that today would be a good day, that she'd look at me the way she used to. What I do miss? The idea of us. The early days when things were easy. But missing the idea of something isn't a good enough reason to stay in the reality of it. People keep asking if I regret it. The answer is no, not even a little. The only thing I regret is not leaving sooner. I regret the months I spent trying to be enough for someone who'd already decided I wasn't. I regret ignoring the signs because I was afraid of being alone. I regret treating her words as something to overcome rather than information to accept. But leaving? Taking her at her word? Respecting what she said enough to act on it. No regrets there. Someone asked in the comments, what if she really didn't mean it? What if it was just a bad moment? Here's my answer. If someone says something that cruel in a moment of anger, they've been thinking it during moments of calm. Words like that don't come from nowhere. They come from a place of resentment that's been building, from thoughts that have been circling, from feelings that have been suppressed. She didn't say it to hurt me. She said it because, in that moment, she forgot to filter herself. And that authenticity, as painful as it was the most real thing between us in months. I'm not angry anymore. I was for a while, angry at her for wasting my time, angry at myself for letting her. But anger takes energy, and I'd rather put that energy into building something new. So yeah, she told me I wasn't good enough, that I was a placeholder until something better came along. And instead of arguing, instead of begging, instead of trying to prove my worth to someone who'd already decided I had none, I just believed her and left. Final update. Someone DM'd me asking what I'd say to Sarah if I saw her now. Honest answer? Probably hi, and keep walking. There's no dramatic speech to give, no closure scene to play out. It's just over, and that's okay. What I'd say to pass me, the guy who stayed through all those red flags. You deserve someone who's sure about you, not someone who's shopping around while keeping you on layaway. And the sooner you learn that, the sooner you'll stop wasting time with people who make you feel like you're not enough. Would I change anything? Maybe I'd leave sooner. But everything happened the way it needed to happen. I had to reach that breaking point. I had to hear those words. Some people need to hit rock bottom before they're willing to climb out. And for me, rock bottom was realizing I'd been fighting for someone who'd given up months ago. To everyone saying I'm their hero or I'm badass or whatever, I'm really not. I'm just a guy who finally got tired of feeling like shit in his own relationship. The bar is apparently very low. And to those saying I should take Sarah back now that she wants to reconcile, hard pass. You don't get to tell someone they're your backup plan and then get shocked when they leave. You don't get to treat someone like they're not good enough and then get another chance when your better option doesn't work out. That's not how it works. That's not how any of this works. I'm good. Really. I'm okay alone. I'm better than okay. I'm learning what it feels like to not constantly brace for criticism. To not mentally review every interaction trying to figure out what I did wrong. To just exist without someone else's mood determining my worth. So that's it. That's the story. She told me she was settling. I believed her. I left. She realized the grass wasn't greener. I still didn't come back. The end. Thanks for listening, Reddit. Feels good to write it all out. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. What do you think about this story? Share it in the comments.